Hello and thank you for joining us today at Distracted by Life. Our podcast is all about making change within yourself and your relationships. We share conversations, stories, and explore ideas coming from our lifelong journey of the high points and especially the low points where we learn to face our fears or cope with pain, loss, and failure. We do this in a discovery quest to establish patterns around our past and understanding whether we are tripping up from our past or being held hostage by it. We work on identifying ways to move forward, aligning our core values, and unlocking the keys to self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-compassion, and letting go of what is not serving you positively in life. A better you is always there, ready to explore in a new world. So let's begin. Have you ever thought about the wounds we go through in life, the scars we feel deep inside us? Do you look at them as wisdom? Or do you allow these wounds to turn your life into misery and bitterness? In today's episode, Amal and I are going to discuss turning wounds into wisdom, using our own life experiences, and of course, Amal's observations and work with some of her clients. Hi, Amal.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so glad to be here, especially on this episode. It's really close to my heart. Well, anyway, all my episodes are. So let's get started. Anyone who has faced significant adversity in life and managed to overcome it will have undoubtedly learned a lot from experience. And there are a lot of other people who could benefit from the expertise they require. So in our lives actually, it's almost inevitable that we will face problems and challenges and uncertainty. And we certainly face that now currently in the pandemic. They bring you deeper understanding and teach you so much if you are prepared to look for the true meaning you can take from it. The most important lesson I have learned, we all have scars. Some fade and are soon forgotten, while others just persist and bring bad memories with them. Everyone makes a choice how to grow and move forward in the wake of their bad memories or challenges. And it's how you choose to cope with your scars that determines the quality of your life and the impact you have on the world. However, the brave among us is willing to share their wounds and the wisdom they have gained, and others are more comfortable hiding them like they never happened and refer to themselves as strong people. You know, there are some questions I've certainly asked myself that changed my life. Those were questions like, call them questions I ask for reflection, whatever it is at the time. And I still do, is about what significant adversity have I overcome in my life? How can I help others do the same? If I hadn't asked myself these questions and took time to self-reflect and did like a deep work, I wouldn't have been a blogger, a coach, or written 4 books that I like to think changes lives, giving inspirational talks or coach others to transform their lives and build their resilience using their character strength and mindfulness, believe it or not. To me, how better to live a life than enjoying helping others through sharing my knowledge and experience. Indeed, it has turned my wounds into wisdom. So, to think about this, let me ask you this question. What does it mean for you when someone asks you, or even me now asking you, turning your wounds into wisdom?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Okay, wounds into wisdom. Probably making lemons from lemonade, the old adage. Making something positive as a result of a negative experience, I guess.
Sure. If that's your definition, then it works. Yeah, it's pretty much that way. It's taking, at the time when you are facing the wounds or, the bad memories or the scars or whatever the pain that you felt during that time, they don't always come across as wisdom, and you don't have that insight. None of us do. When we're in the middle of the chaos and life is out of order And especially when you're experiencing loss that brings a lot of pain and guilt and sadness. You don't take that as, valuable insights at the time. But later on in the years, you really do end up looking back, and there are wisdom into those wounds.
Well, that's that whole hindsight is 2020. If you look now, back then, you could easily make those decisions because you've learned so much since then.
Yes.
But you made the best decision you could at the time.
Yes.
Back then.
I have to agree with that. And to be honest, I wasn't one of those people who looked at these wounds as wisdom. I didn't. But I could tell you now I do, very much so, in everything I do.
That's where regret and rumination come in.
Yeah.
If you don't learn from them and you keep repeating them in your head.
So what kind of feelings come up when you reflect on these questions? Emotional-wise, the roller coaster of the wounds into wisdom kind of thing.
Regret.
Okay.
That'd probably be the biggest feeling. Yeah, I have to say everything that goes with regret.
Okay. So let's dig deeper, sharing few examples. Well, would you like to go first?
No, but I will, because you're telling me to. You know what? It'd have to go back to when my daughter and her mother went with her mother when we split up. Yeah, that one hurt at the time.
What happened?
Not only did we split up, but the city also faced a huge economic bust, leaving me to leave town, to get a job out of town in order to send money back home and provide for my daughter. So yeah, two kicks in the head at the time.
So the first one would be the wound. The first wound would be the breakup.
Separation, yeah.
And the second wound would be because you had to move away from your daughter.
Yeah. That one hurt more.
So what was the emotions that came with that?
Pain, loss, I guess separation anxiety or something.
You mentioned hurt as well.
Hurt. Yeah, definitely. And anger at myself, because I was prepared to, spend the rest of my life. So at the time, yeah, it was quite painful.
How did you deal with it? Did you numb your pain?
I ate. Yeah, I'm a classic emotional eater. That's what I do. That's my thing. And humor, diving it into humor and trying to keep a distance from that emotion, just kind of burying it, to be honest with you.
So you were running away from the pain?
Yes.
You couldn't face it?
Very hard to.
Why is that? If you were to face your pain?
Well, because you have to face all those emotions all over again. You have to relive. It's almost like reliving that experience all over again, and it hurt too much at the time. And when I mean at the time, I mean after we had split up.
Did you feel that there were a success in the fact that you chose to, because you didn't want to relive the emotions and the pain? It's just hurt too much. So you numb it by eating, and you ended up, I'm assuming, masking with humor and overeating and whatnot. Do you feel it served you? Were you able to run away from the pain? Did it help?
No matter what running you do, you can't run away from yourself.
So
you eventually will always have yourself. So at some point in your life, hopefully, fingers crossed, and thankfully in mine, you have to stop, turn around, and look at that person that keeps following you and talk to that person.
Perfect point. Say it again. At some point,
my short-term memories.
At some point in your life,
yes,
you have to stop running, and face.
I turn around and I face that person that keeps following, or emotion, or whatever you want to call it. That's what I did.
So no matter where we are in life, turning wounds into wisdom is key here, because the only way we get to do that if we stop running and we really face it head on. They're ugly. Don't get me wrong. They're very painful and ugly, but running away from them, all it does is there is a buildup, and then that buildup keeps going and digging a deeper hole of inside us, in our heart and in our mind, our mental state, because we don't live in the quality of life we live from going forward because of that wound. There is no quality of life because we're overeating or masking or whatever it is that we're doing.
Okay, so you're bringing on my question to you. Now I get to ask you a question. Do you have an example that you can share?
I do, and I'm going to try to summarize it because it's a deeper, longer conversation to give you a context about my childhood. And at the time, what was a huge, deeper wound for me was I was 80 years old. My dad had pancreatic cancer. And I was back home. Back home for me is I was born and raised in Sudan, Khartoum. And at the time when my dad he was very, very ill. And he was ill he was battling pancreatic cancer for three years, I would say. Not even shorter than that. Can't really remember exactly how long he battled it. But it come to an end. He had 1 month to live, and he was extremely ill. Our life was upside down. I was 80 years old. I was in grade 4. My mom, I wouldn't say she abandoned me, but I tell you the truth, she was extremely overwhelmed with the diagnosis, knowing full well he had 1 month to live. She had 3 children. I have 2 older brothers and myself. And she was more focused on getting through this time. And so she tried everything she possibly can. Take him to Egypt for some, hoping different diagnosis, whatever. She also traveled with him to Germany to see what really he truly had. And then that's when she went to Germany and got told that he have 1 month to live and you got to get back quickly so he doesn't die in Germany and it become costly for you to bring back his body. So she came back to Sudan, and we couldn't live where we usually we lived. So we moved into my aunt's house because it was a one kind of a home. It didn't have like floors and stairs and whatnot. And so we can manage. And then she relied heavily on her sister to try to kind of pick up the pieces when it come to us looking for our well-being and sending us to school and things like that. While she focused fully between her job, because she couldn't afford taking the time off her job, and looking and caring for a sick man. And the truth is, I was very lonely. I was hurt. I didn't know what's going on, and I wished I understood fully. I knew that he was very, very sick. There is a part of me that was sad seeing him, fragile and breaking down and not have the strength I am used to. And a part of me was struggling in school so much. I couldn't tell anybody. All I did was come home with test result. I needed someone, a grown-up, to sign. My aunt would sign those papers, and they're all 0. I ended up failing that year. I failed the class. My dad passed away. What stood out for me is that I was completely forgotten this whole time, to the point that the day of the funeral, no one realized that I was walking barefoot to go to the service, to the church. When we are all getting fast and ready to get to get in the cars and drive to church for his service, to the funeral, I was barefoot. And my life changed. I lost everything. I felt like I was lost. I was hurt. I lost my dad. I failed my class. I was lonely. I felt a little bit of abandoned and didn't have that attention that I needed as a child. So even though I was a young age, but I carried that with me for the longest time, because the history prior to my dad passing away, was I'm not smart, I'm not good enough. Part of the history is that my dad was physically abusive, and verbally abusive actually as well, because that was his nature. That all he knew how to do is teaching us to behave, beating us up. If we fail in a class or did something in school, we get beaten up. I was in the forefront of that. So I was good for nothing. I wasn't smart. I wasn't intelligent. I carried that. And when I carried that with me, I lost interest in school. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't looking for knowledge and growth. I just wanted to get by and survive. Because what the hell, I'm not that smart anyway. And where am I going with all of this? So basically, I carried that over, and then I come to Canada. I'm going to fast forward pretty quick, come to Canada, and then I struggle because I can't speak the language. I failed classes. I was in high school at that time. I came here when I was 15. I'm struggling in between languages, Arabic and English. And then, oh my God, I couldn't function. And I was failing. And school was much better than it was back home, experience-wise. I had kind teachers that tried to help me, knowing full well I'm a new kid in the block. But all of this time, all I'm doing is like getting by, because, I'm not that smart. So just kind of get by and, just kind of wrap things quickly, and nothing that I need to learn any different, just kind of making sure I'm making it through. And I kept on and continue with these wounds that I'm carrying over. So coming to an adulthood where I became a wife and a mother, the cycle had to stop. I needed for me to become a good mother and to be a good wife and to get out of that bubble that I lived in, which is running from pain, carrying the wounds, and feeling unworthy in so many ways. I had to stop it, and I needed to change, because at one point I got into a crossroad and my life was getting out of control. And it was basically end my marriage, adamant about ending the relationship because I don't want to feel pain and I don't want to fix it because I'm looking for an easy way out now, right? So, just getting by. I don't want to fix it because I tried. I can't fix that. And it's time to kind of move away from the pain and and the best option is to, end the relationship and try to just focus on my son. None of it worked because I felt miserable, right? Feeling miserable, it gets me nowhere. There is no joy, feeling miserable. And it kind of was like a really cowardly, easy way out to try to continue to run away. There is nothing I learned because now I'm doing the same thing over and over. So with that said, I realized that I need to stop and I need to actually look inward. I needed the time to look inward and see what are these limiting beliefs and the story that I've been carrying on all those years, telling myself, feeding my brain, and just self-fulfilling prophecy. So to me was, this has to stop. And that's when I turned my wounds into wisdom, because I learned a lot in the process. I learned about me. I learned about other people's pain. I learned to get more insights before I look at an opportunity, at a challenge, before I look at a challenge or a struggle, that it's such an irritation and it's pain and first log, pain, let me run away from that. I now stop and think and question and explore, what is this trying to tell me? And that's pretty much it.
Oof. Okay. That was a lot. So I guess what happens then? If because you keep talking about this wounds into wisdom. That's great. So what happens if we don't do anything about it?
We remain angry and miserable, like I mentioned. You were angry. I was miserable, right?
Yeah, very much so.
In your scenario, angry, I was miserable. We project our aggression onto people. I did that in my relationship because mentality is no man is going to break me because that's what my dad did.
Yeah.
And then we lack insights, which we both did. We lack insights, clarity, and the freedom of letting go and moving forward. We stay stuck, bitter through and through.
That's that pair of shoes that you're comfortable with and you don't want to get into a new pair.
Yeah.
Stuck in that routine.
We know
that emotional routine.
Well, the limiting belief and the story we tell ourselves, it keeps us boxed. And when it keeps us boxed, we can't see beyond that. Yeah. And it feels familiar and we know how to deal with that part, which is we know how to be very good at being miserable and being stuck. We armor up and harden, which I did. I couldn't allow love in my life that easily to flow because in my mind, love hurt because that's what I learned watching my parents' relationship and watching him as a parent raising his kids. Love hurts so much. Love tells you you're stupid. You're good for nothing. You're not amount to nothing. And love shows you... I gotta
say, that just pisses me off every time it's not the first time I've heard about this, but it just, I get so pissed off.
So imagine me dealing with the pain and the wounds of him passing away, didn't get to a conclusion to prove him wrong, that I am smart and I can make it and I could do this and you're wrong. And then getting over the fact that I wished him dead. I lived with that guilt all my life. I was praying for the pain to stop and the hurt. And the only way the pain to stop and hurt is him dying. And that happened. It came true. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I did that. Oh my God, I prayed to God and God answered. I was a child. It's cancer. It's not God answered. Maybe God answered to end the pain in a different way. And that's another possibility we can explore at another episode. But for me, it was and then failing, all my friends moved forward. A loser stayed. I just made it. Everything came true. The loser stayed back. Repeated the great. This is not just Canada.
Be careful of labeling yourself because that still bugs me when you say
yes,
stuff like that.
But that is what I was back then. I don't label myself
anymore. That's how you felt
back then. Okay. And so we armor up and harden. We lose hope and miss what it feels like to be joyful. And that's what it felt like. Joy doesn't come easy for me. Back then, didn't. For the longest time, I'll tell you the truth. Joy has become easy in my life the last 6 years. Because it took me that much long to get over it. And we pretty much, the people we love suffer. Pretty much the people we love suffer from our behavior and the dark clouds that is taking over our mental state.
Okay, so, well, what can we do to like, what can you do to help us? Like seeing the wisdom despite the hurt and the pain and the scars and stuff?
I don't have all the answers, but what I can tell you from my own experience in coaching others, a good start is to admit to your emotional pain. You can deal with it and heal. I learned this the hard way. I speak about it in my book, Love, Faith, and Mercy, letting go and leaning into pain. And let go of what used to be and no longer serve you. One of the hardest things to do is letting go. You fight to hold on and you fight to let go, but letting go is always the healthiest path forward. Emotionally detach yourself from your problems. As I mentioned in a previous episode titled The 5 Hindrances of Self-Mastery. It is non-identification. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the emotion. It's just that you see all 3 aspects about yourself, meaning you are aware of these 3 aspects. So you don't identify with them, but you do acknowledge them.
Can I just interject? the 5 hindrances of self-mastery, I really got to put an extra plug in for that podcast. If ever you have a chance out there, it is not short. It's about 30 minutes, but it is definitely worth it. It's literally changed our lives. Well, my life anyways. Sorry.
And view every challenge as an educational journey. Ask yourself, what is this situation meant to teach me? Why did it come? Maybe it has something to reveal to you in an area of your life that needs work or attention. Also, ask yourself more positive questions. Have a more friendly dialogue with yourself. Instead of asking, why me? Why this happened? Why it didn't? Swap them with more neutral ones. Make small adjustments as you figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Small daily changes add up to tremendous result in the end. There is a really good book about habits and talk about the small changes, 1% every day. Each day it amount to a lot in the long run. Is Atomic Habits. It's a great book to read on that by James Clear. Lastly, keep putting one foot in front of the other. Pay less attention to others' people's opinions of you. Nurture your inner hope. Stay calm and focused. Remind yourself you are not alone and embrace the new, stronger version of yourself. Remember, strength doesn't come from comfort. It comes from stretching your comfort zone and overcoming all the things you once thought you couldn't handle. When you find yourself at your most painful points in life, you are open to the most significant positive change. In the end, the strongest people are the ones who feel pain, accept it, learn from it, and fight through it. They turn their wounds into wisdom and strength. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for joining me on the Distracted by Life podcast, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Thanks, Amal. And thank you very much for joining us here, Distracted by Life. Today we've had a chance to discuss admitting to our emotional pain so we can deal with it and heal, letting go of what used to be and no longer serves us, and to do our best by emotionally detaching ourselves from the problems we're facing, using what we talked about in an earlier podcast titled The 5 Hindrances of Self-Mastery. If you can see the wisdom and education in your challenges, you will definitely become a stronger you. If you're interested to learn more, check out Amal's website too, at amalcandido.com, where she talks about her coaching world and links to her books as well. With that said, stay tuned for our next episode. And from Amal and myself, thanks again, and talk with you soon.